This is IBM Museum. For the last two nights, I've attempted to make a video follow-up of the PS2 Model 65SX. It's in the benched behind me here. I've got the tower behind and my spare planer in front of that. But I've run into a few issues. I'll make an attempt again tonight to go a little bit further with that. I think I've got most everything resolved at this point. But in this case, I'm recording in the daytime, and I've actually had where I'm going to do an unboxing video, and it's ironic in a way because I'm with the 65SX. I'm trying to do a little bit of a follow-up of the earlier unboxing video, where I received the IBM SCSI adapters from Japan, and we'll learn a little bit more about that as I go through and have that video later on. But I'm let me get off the screen here and get turned around. I'll show you what we're going to unbox today. And I've actually backed off the camera a little bit from the bench as well, just to give me some space. And the reason I'm kind of right in the middle of this bench test, and I want to try some things after this recording is over. And I just didn't want to shove things off to the side where I had it set up good and have to clean up the bench and things like that for a little bit better space. So I apologize for that. We'll just try and work with what we can. But the unboxing is this here. And I was moving around some CPUs today, trying to get organized a little bit with them and get them filed correctly. And I came across this in the box, and I've gone through and I've cleaned up the box a little bit. And it's got shrink wrap that I've actually opened at both ends. I've cut away this end, but I'll show the outside of the box. And of course, I've gone through and I've masked off my my address as well. And I did prepare. I mean, this box does feel heavy enough to have stuff in it. But I did go through and prep because I know I had some of the other parts and pieces that are very similar to this as well, so that I could show if it turned out that I didn't, if the box is empty where I'd actually opened it up. And I don't know why they really didn't use that, but let me go through and I'm going to get rid of the shrink wrap covering if I can. And I was glad that I actually had the shrink wrap over it for the conditions that this was stored in, and being dusty and maybe a little bit of moisture, that the saran wrap. And the main reason I'm going through and wanting to get the shrink wrap off is just to show there we go. Get it far enough off. And I may even go through and bag that up or some other way of protecting the box. Is in still pretty good shape. But I wanted to show that. And I don't know when I got this. I didn't get it retail. I got it where probably maybe in as far as a couple decades ago, or well, between a decade or two, 10 to 20 years probably is when I got that. And Intel used the same box for, and they tell what it contains here. This box contains the Intel SnapIn 286 upgrade module, and an Intel Aboveboard. And I actually looked online just prior to this too, as far as um, Louis Olin's content, and also to see if Peter Wendt had a picture of the adapter as well, because I didn't see among Lewis's content, I didn't see any picture or diagram of the board, and that's just something I'll have to do. I'm taking some pictures later on of some other memory adapters as it is, or let me see, or actually some hard drive storage adapters, and to get those up, and I'll have to take pictures of the of these as well. The boards I have separate, and I'll show those in a moment, look a little bit different from these that are on the cover. And I hope I hit my cough button soon enough on that instance. So they show pictures of this, and transform your computer into a 20 megahertz Intel 386SX powerhouse for running Windows OS 2 or DOS applications, and save money doing it. So they have the pictures, and they've got the IBM PS2 Model 50 or 60, and it shows the Aboveboard and the CPU module that goes into the 286, replaces the 286 in the socket on the planar. And then, of course, they show here for the PS2 Model 50Z, and that's the same adapter, the same Aboveboard, but the CPU module is different in that regard, because the PS2 50Z has what they call a PLCC, plastic leaded plastic leaded, because they're talking about the leads of the CPU, not lead, the metal. Chip carrier, the socket holds the CPU, and on the Model 50 and 60 models, that has actually what they refer to as a PGA, or pin grid array, 286 CPU. And then they show here for the IBM PS2 models 25286 or 3286, and of course it's the same CPU module, because those are, in fact, actually this is a little bit wrong, because the CPUs of the Model 25286 and Model 3286 should actually look like the modules that are that's on the from the 50Z, because they also have a PLCC 286. They don't have the PGA, the pin grid array 286. So, well, excuse me, that looks a little bit different. They show an entirely different CPU module, I guess. And then, of course, the bus type there is what's considered an AT bus, or the 16-bit ISA slot. And, of course, it got its name from the IBM AT, the AT bus. So that's the same adapter here as what the Model 25286 or Model 3286 would have. But then that's back to being the same PGA 286 socket as the 50 and 60 in that case. So they use the same packaging for this. This is kind of confusing on what board, but they actually do have a label on the end of it here. And that's some tiny writing that I don't know if I can get that in focus either. But it says Intel Power Pack for the IBM PS2 Model 50 and 60. Includes a SnapIn 386 module and the Aboveboard MC for microchannel memory board with 4 megabytes of RAM is what it says there. I was wondering if it would actually have RAM within this. See, now they're including the memory adapter. So let's go through and shuck this out of the box. The outside cardboard carrier piece. And I probably had to look in this at some point, but it looks like it's complete in this case. Even the plastic is yellowed a little bit without being stored away like this. Maybe a little bit brittle. I don't really want to set things on. But it has the Intel SnapIn 386 installation guide for IBM AT and PS2 models 50 and 60. And I don't know why they don't have that for the 50Z, or whether that's a different booklet in that case. Well, it's the same CPU, I get. Same CPU module as the between those systems. So I guess that's. I can hold it right side up, and they show they've got the CPU board in there, and looks like a chip extractor, and some other items that are even like spacers or something else for the pins. I guess I don't know if you get it seated enough in the socket or not. And I doubt if I'll actually go through, and I'm not necessarily following the warning about the static sensitive device and it being a little bit staticky now that we're getting into December. But I have this board otherwise out from another order, or that I've used before in the past, that I can be able to show. And for all the carriers, it actually looks like they even have a little storage thing for the 286 chip once you pull it out. And we'll look at the microchannel adapter just in a moment here. And this actually looks like the plastic part of the external cellophane wrapping that was on there originally when I cut it away. And I did open the box because I stuck that away inside. That wouldn't have been the prior seller. I don't the person that sold it to me, I don't think would have done that. And I masked that out, but it just has the first name of George, and he's in Georgia evidently, and looks like some sort of computer recycling place or something else. That who knows if they got these off the shelf when they weren't selling, and I picked one up. I've actually got this booklet as well, and it feels like it's got a diskette in there, and I'm not gonna also pull that out of the in this instance as well. And these diskette, I mean the diskette that's in there, it's going to have the needed files that we would have for installation. I'm not sure if there's a program to turn on the cache of the CPU daughter card like there is for the Kingston side, and those are much more common. I went through and worked to document those modules years ago, and I'll probably have a feature on those later on, because that's a whole bunch of different looking modules and things like that, and can give links to what those are. Now I am going to open up this package, and yeah, it looks like it's heavily yellowed compared to the this. You can't even tell. I mean, it's clear. It's still very clear plastic. And let's even go, well, I can probably leave that there. And this is yellowed. I mean, I've broken that static seal before, or someone has. It's actually cracked. And I mean, it is of a different composition. There's even pieces falling off of this as I go through and open it. So this is obviously some different plastic than what the one that holds the module. And as you can see here, they've got, for this plastic carrier, boy, this thing is fragile. They've also got to where it fits that other 16-bit ISA adapter for the 25286, 3286, and the IBM AT. They have a cutaway that the adapter would fit in there, as well as the microchannel version like we have here. And in this case, the microchannel is a lot more narrower. You know, it's not quite as tall, and it's a more of a and I always heard that IBM did that. So the company that produced microchannel adapters, besides making it the case of the system being a little bit more lower profile, that it was so that the boards were harder to produce for companies, or it took a little bit more of a company with a bigger company that was used to making adapters that could accommodate the microchannel style of the closer pins and some of the other multi-layers and things like that the adapter required. But looks like a new adapter. It's never been stuck in probably even been stuck in a system. And so, and it said 4 megabyte, and I mean, that to me looks like that maybe I would think 4 megabyte would be half that capacity. You'd have the SIMs filled in one of the banks, and you know, different from a microchannel adapter. What IBM strove for is that has jumpers to configure things, but I mean, there were companies that adapted that way, and within the manual for that, there's going to be documentation how those jumpers should be set, and that's valuable information to get online. And I'll show another adapter that I've been going through, and had a communication with another YouTube creator, and he went over a 16-bit memory card. And I want to show, I promised him I'd go through and show an adapter I was talking about at some point. I'll do that at the end of this. But I also want to show that these pin headers, I mean, in this case, it's got a 50-pin header. And this is just for a lot of time they had where it was peripheral expansion. They had a little daughter card that would add like serial and parallel ports sometimes, or some other thing, or maybe for the expansion of more memory, have to have another nestled board in here that adds memory in somehow. This is not any sort of interface for storage, otherwise hard drive or anything like that. It doesn't have the chips, doesn't have the ability to do that. It's a memory adapter in this case. Although there were cases that companies that also, in addition to their the memory, they added on other functions like communication ports or parallel ports, things like that. And I have a few examples of them as well. I don't know if I'll make this video long enough for a show and tell on those, but I can. So this looks fully populated to me. I would suspect that these are 8 megabyte SIMs here. And I mean, the jumpers are set, and they're probably configured for that type of, for that capacity on the board. And you have to set those jumpers before you even put these nestled SIMs in place, because I mean, this is the bottom position of that bank, and you have to put this SIM in first and follow the sequence of loading the SIMs up. This being the last SIM of the bank that you'd put in the nestle. Then you have to even have the jumpers set the way you want before you even put in this bank. So a little bit of planning when you go through and actually add memory and looking over the manual or documentation of how you're going to put that in the system. Now the other, and there's the CPU daughter card. I'll show that in a moment. The other Intel boards, and these are actually identical, that I have, and they've got that blue tab that even Intel didn't do, and in that occasion didn't put their name on the top of that. But this is the other Aboveboard or whatever it is. I probably even need to go through and get an adapter ID of what these are. But you can see it's a little bit different of configuration, where it even has these socketed chips, or like memory controllers, and nice that this one has the metal SIM retainers, still 30-pin SIMs, but it's a different design than this other one, and it doesn't even have that 50-pin header for whatever functions. So this would probably be a less capable adapter that I had before, and so I didn't even have these two adapters in service. And it even looks mixed, that these are plastic latches on this side for these 6 SIM banks, and these two have the metal latches. And looking at this one, this has all plastic latches on it. So they must have run out of the plastic latches, and then midway through somehow switched on this adapter to give it the retainers for that. Now this is the CPU board, and it's got the 20 megahertz 386SX in this case, and of course, obviously, Intel branded CPU, and then it's got some cache, functionality to this. I'm not sure exactly of the cache capacity, or how Intel went through and actually enabled that cache for the CPU daughter card. Like with the Kingston modules, there was software that you ran that turned on that cache, basically, a driver. And then this is the same exact board that is that's otherwise in that plastic wrap that I have with this whole box. It's got the pin grid array CPU mounting. So this would also be for the models 50 and 60, according to what to the pictures that Intel is showing on the packaging. And mine has some labels on there, probably for revision numbers or something else, like the Kingston modules did. Now, a lot of time there was a preference anyway for the Kingston modules, just because they had a faster 386 SX chips in it. And I think Intel only went up to the 20 megahertz that they used for these adapters. And of course, they had 25 megahertz 36 SXs, I think, is where they stopped on those. And of course, the 16 megahertz and 20 megahertz were a lot more common earlier. But the Kingston modules actually went through, and I think they even started at the 20 megahertz. They have 25 megahertz, and even the 33 megahertz 386 SX on them. So they've got just that faster 386 SX CPU. And I'll go over those Kingston modules, and I know that those are very well documented in this case. And I've got to go through and take some pictures of this stuff, in particular the adapters, that I don't see online otherwise. Now, and I guess we can open up with the board I was wanting to show the other YouTube creator, and he had an AST board, and this is actually what they call the Rampage 2 or Rampage/2 for the PS2 models, being microchannel, of course. Microchannel models that are the models 50 and above are microchannel. Below the model number 50 are not microchannel or ISA bus. And it was the aspect of he had a different board than this, but I was bringing up that it's got a working sim, and these don't even look like all that much capacity. These were normally, I think, even just 256 KB modules that were in that arrangement of the chips and everything else. And then it has those, and these actually have circuit traces on them. And I have where that sim retainer looks like it's missing. So again, I have to be careful with these. So careful with these plastic retainers. And that plastic does turn brittle over time as well. And I can't even unseat that. I don't want to go through and actually unseat that connector right now, because it's just those latches are ooh. And it actually does have circuit traces though on those blanks that are in there. I don't know if it's as terminators or just otherwise that those had to be in place to use the capacity of the sim that was in there. And so you either had those terminators in place or you put modules in place. And maybe in this arrangement, it's where these top two are like comprise a bank of memory. And you can see that they're the nestled arrangement the same way, that you have to have that top one in the position before you can fill in any of the ones from there. And so typically what manufacturers did is that the lowest level memory capacities of the adapters would be installed first. So that when you went through and added more SIMs later on, you wouldn't have to remove those from the adapter. You just left those in place. And it's got the even the AST, and ooh, nice little shiny foil on that identifier. I've never seen that before. I've never even heard that mentioned, that they had that, rather than just a white print on the blue tab, that it's more of a metallic foil that gives a reflection. A little bit more involved there. So, and I'll have to see if I can, when I'm leased here by my, oh, and here I have, oh, and this, I don't know if I even want to show the cover of that, but that just looks like dirt and grime. But there's an installation guide for the Intel Aboveboard MC. So I don't think that this booklet came with this, but it may have, because I don't see any sort of yeah, it may have, because I don't see any booklet like this within the box. So maybe I pulled out the booklet and it actually weathered externally. That would have been nice to have plastic covering on that for whatever that is. But at least it looks like the pages inside are in very good shape. There's some stains along the edges. But I will be able to go through and also scan that to be a benefit to the community as well. And I know there is information, but there's not a lot of images on that Aboveboard. And bringing up the aspect of the I/O, or the serial parallel connections and things like that that manufacturers could add. I have this quad board, and PS/Q is the name of that. It's from QuadRAM, and I think they did a lot of the memory management software for like XMS or EMS memory. And I mean, it's a it is actually in the official box, and it looks like that box is used for different things as well. It's marked as a PS2Q with 2 megabyte on there, and apparently you add it in 512 megabyte increments. And it says QuadRAM 2 megabyte expansion for PS2, $30. And I don't know if I've picked that up directly from like a swap meet or something like that, maybe. But otherwise in good shape. Looks like it hasn't really been used as well. Revision 2F. And even somebody went through in breaking the latches for that SIM. And this wasn't me. I mean, I don't know if I would have come up with that solution of glue. I've seen some people that do, but they glued that SIM in place on the other side, and the SIM below it, I mean, it still has the plastic latches. That's pretty well. And it's actually got, so it's got a serial port, the DB9 male in this case, and then this multi-pin connector. I would even have to see or look through the booklet of what that actually is. And they have some of the socketed chips there that can be set. And then they also have jumpers again on a microchannel adapter. And it was where the configuration is supposed to be done in software, primarily if it can. I mean, the thought of a jumper on a microchannel board should be a very rare occurrence, as it could be. But and that's a lot of time when I saw these, and I would see that they had all the I think I even have the diskette for this thing around here somewhere. I saw it the other day when I was organizing, and but I would buy this stuff because I knew how useful having that documentation is. And just to kind of, okay, so they talk about in here what it includes, and it mentions the quad board PS/Q parallel port adapter cable. So that's evidently some sort of parallel port that is on that adapter, and they just couldn't fit a. So they talk about the jumpers there and how the jumpers are set. Locations of SIMs and SIM sockets. They go through all the things here. And I promise you, I just had this kind of set aside as I was going through and organizing, and I've put most of these memory adapters away otherwise. And you see about the ADF files using QSetup. So that's some sort of DOS program that QSetup goes through and installs. And I guess it has drivers on that diskette, expanded memory managers, RAM disk, parallel print spoolers, serial print spoolers. So the aspect of that was a memory board with the additions of being able to connect up to printers to your PS2 as well, even though every PS2 has a full-sized parallel port on it. And then it even has guide to running quad RAM PS/Q boards with OS2, a little insert booklet. So those will all be handy to scan too, and I'm gaining that functionality of being able to scan manuals easy and do that. It's got some inserts on the jumpers, evidently. Quad board PS/Q addenda that they obviously went through later on. And then they have a jumper that's if you use the 256K type SIMs or using the 1 megabyte SIMs. SIMs in upper 2 slots only. SIMs in all 4 slots. So just some of the extra setting. And quick installation guide. I don't know if I would go through and tilt a microchannel adapter that much installing it. They're designed, especially with that back metal tab, to be these tabs to go in straight on to that thumb screw. Maybe that's why they're all bent, is maybe people try that way. But I'll go through and set that aside. There's even just like the Intel booklets, I can go through and I can send in the registration card, warranty registration, get that warranty started on it. And Wow. And this even has a, I mean, that's even paper with ridges. That's not just standard copy paper, 20-pound copy paper. That's more of a letter grade paper. It doesn't identify anyone here. Dear customer, congratulations on choosing this Quadram product for your personal computer. We at Quadram take pride in developing quality products that will aid and assist you in developing your personal computer potential to its fullest extent. Should you encounter any type of problems with implementing or using this product or any other Quadram product, we encourage you to either call or write to the customer service department at the following address. I do give their company address and phone number, whether that company is still going to this day. I don't think so. And they advertise their business hours, 8:15 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We have a highly trained technical support staff ready to assist you in solving your problems or providing you with information on other quality Quadram products. And it's thank you, Lori Weston, Customer Service Manager. So, and then it's got the LW in capitals slash, and then the CS, and that's generally the secretary part, the one that took basically took down the message, dictated or typed it out. So I'll put all that together and the box for when I store that away, and I'll have the manual that I can pair back with the board that supports for additional documentation. And so that was a nice selection. I'll get into I just put this one away. I wanted to show this for the idea of the adding the I/O ports in addition to the memory. And this is actually an Orchid, and they did some display adapters as well. I think even maybe microchannel, but more bigger in the PC sector for some of the display adapters that they did. And of course, in this case, it's the purple tabs, and they were one of, I think, just about the only manufacturer that did those purple tabs. And it's got the 1 megabyte sims in there, and I think I put those in there, and it looks like, and they're again the same nestled arrangement. You had to put these sims in here first and fill down, and these are 8 megabyte sims, and it's even got a BIOS extension in here, version 1.1b. I probably even need to check the contents of that EEPROM, and I don't know if they had different versions or anything else, or even finding one of these otherwise in service now. And then the I/O ports. In this case, they have a full-sized parallel port, DB25 female, and then they actually have, this is a serial port, and they do that in the Apple style, a serial port, like the I'm trying to think of what range. Mike's Mac Shack could probably tell me on a little bit more detail on what models of Apple systems that particular serial port. It's a documented pinout, and some of the manufacturers use it, and that's just for fitting on the smaller, that reduced sized back bracket, the ability to have a parallel port plus that other port. And we see manufacturers, do different ways because they can't get a DB DB9 for the serial port and a DB25 for the parallel port, all on that same back. There just isn't room. And there's other manufacturers like Boca Research and things like that, that they came out with a 37-pin DB37 connector, and then they had a little Hydra cable that multiple connections from that adapter that had the parallel port and the two serial ports typically for something like that. But that's just a little bit of a view of the memory adapters in this case, and to a lesser extent the CPU upgrade that companies had developed, Intel in this case, and that's what the unboxing video turned into. I've got to start going through now and preparing for the where I'm going to try and resume with the making the video for tonight with the 65SX, and going through on that and dovetailing that into a little bit of the prior unboxing. These are those IBM SCSI adapters that I got from Sandy in Japan, and we'll go a little bit further. I just had to come up with that arrangement for testing the for getting the 65SX and just kind of checking some components, and then I still have the those two diskettes in place for holding down that SIM back here. Even though I don't have this tower powered up now, I just have the IBM SIMs on that spare 65SX planer on the bench. So that's something I'll be working on. Hopefully I'll get that video out as well. But that's all I have for this video. I'm going to go back on screen here. Okay, back on screen here. If you like this video, go ahead and click on that like button. Please subscribe to my channel for great videos like this. The occasional unboxing video that comes up that preempts everything else. And then we'll get that other content going about diving deeper into the 65SX as well. So at a later point, I'll do videos on the those Kingston CPU upgrade daughter cards as well, and give links to that. But I'm going to go through and I'll make images of the adapters, and I don't think the CPU daughter card's even diagrammed, but I'll have to look otherwise. I know that we got the Kingston stuff diagrammed, and get the links up in the description I can for the locations of those boards, and then those will be diagrammed and pictures added in due time, and maybe even the manuals once I get those scanned linked in to be a benefit if you happen to get one of these cards later on. Going to and knowing where to find the information is quite a bit of the battle here. So that's all I have for now. This is IBM Museum. Thank you.